All right, so let's talk about the constant of proportionality. So the constant of proportionality is essentially finding the unit rate. So the constant of proportionality is the unit rate, essentially. Okay. In other terms, in bigger terms, it's the constant value of the ratio. So it's the constant value of the ratio of two proportional quantities. So it's the constant value of the ratio. So we're comparing two proportional things. And essentially what we're doing is we're finding the unit rate. Okay, so that's really important. It's really just the unit rate. There's an equation where it's y equals kx, where k is your constant of proportionality. So where k equals constant of proportionality. Okay, so it's the constant of proportionality. How you find your k? K is equal to y over x, your y value over your x value. Okay? So let's look at it when we're comparing tables. So again, as you can see, it's the same thing as taking the unit rate. So proportional relationships can be represented in tables. The tables can be used to identify the constant of proportionality. Okay, we know that. So how to find the constant of proportionality from a table. So that's our first step. The first thing I would do is label my table as x and y. So we want to label our table in terms of x and y. And on here, if possible, find the value of 1 in the left column. So do I see a value of 1 in the left column or in the x column? I do. It's right here. So this is your value of 1. Remember, when we have one unit or one of something, that's our unit rate or our constant of proportionality. Okay. So then in this case, my constant of proportionality for this, my k, is equal to 0.25. What that means is that each cookie is 2.25. Now you may be asking, what happens if there is no table? If there is no 1 in the table, we simply set up a proportion, or you can set up that the k equals y over x. Okay? And we could have done our y value, our 3, over our x value of 12, and still got 0.25. Okay, so either way, looking at the next one, calculating unit rate from graphs. So proportional relationships can also be represented in graphs. Okay, the graphs can be used to identify the constant of proportionality and make predictions. So finding the constant of proportionality from a graph, the first thing you do is find the point 1, x on the line. So that's kind of deceiving. It should be 1, y. And this is your unit rate. So wherever we see 1 down here, we want to find that on the graph. But if you look, it's not exactly on that graph. So let's zoom in a little bit to see how it's not exactly a point that we can determine. So we might have to look at something else then. Looking at this graph, is there another point that I see that goes directly over 1? There is, and it's 8. 8 goes directly over the point, okay? So 8 goes directly over the point. So we can use that as my unit rate then. So we would do your y over x. So this is your x, and this is my y-axis. So we would use these values. So we would do k equals 36 over 8, which is 4.5. Or you could set up a proportion, which is what they did, okay? So either way, let's look at the next. All right, so I want you to solve 1 and 2 for me. Those should be pretty straightforward. So take a moment and solve 1 and 2, and then we'll come back to 4 and 5. Okay, so hopefully you got 48 and then 6. So now let's look at example 4. So it wants you to explain what the point 525 is. So remember, it's x and then y. And then this is x, and this is y. Okay, so we go to 5, 2.5. What does that point mean? So let's write that in words. Okay, so that means 5 pounds, and I know it's pounds because of down here, 5 pounds of bananas cost, and then cost in dollars, $2.50. Okay. But now, what if I asked you to tell me the unit rate or the constant of proportionality? So find your COP, your constant of proportionality. So remember how we do that is we go to where 1 is on the graph and see if we can clearly distinguish that that's on the line. And we can zoom in if you need, but I would say that that clearly crosses. So that means 1 pound of bananas, 1 pound, so 1 pound of bananas costs 50 cents or 50.50 of a dollar. Okay, I want you to look at the next one. Look at example 5. Explain in words, so tell me what it means, and then find your constant of proportionality. So do both of those for this example 5 for me. Okay, so hopefully you found what 4/3 means, and that means 4 dozen cupcakes needs 3/4 cups of sugar. And then you had to find your constant of proportionality, because that was the second thing I asked for. And to do that, we go to 1 on the graph and see where that crosses. I can't really tell where it crosses, so I'm going to use the point we already know. So we already are given 4/3. So use that into your equation here, that that k equals y over x. Remember, side to side is your x-axis. Up and down is your y-axis. So we do 3 over 4. And that gives us 0.75. So that means 1 dozen cupcakes needs 0.75 cups of sugar. If you don't have it written down, the homework is due on 1/27. So it's due on 1/27. Okay.